Professor Dr. Dave Frontmeyer, the President of the University of Oregon, Dr. Thomas J. Mills, Associate Vice President for International Program, Mr. Richard Boyum, Regional English Officer, the Embassy of the United States of America, Mrs. Leslie Beckman, Senior Instructor, Linguistic Department and American English Institute, all the colleagues of the President of the University of Oregon who are here with us today, the teachers, participants at the TOT Company and Wang Prekambun School. I am delighted to welcome the team of the University of Oregon, led by President Professor Dr. Dave Frontmeyer, to the TOT Company headquarters, the place where the teachers are gathering to learn the English teaching skill improvement. The program contributed by the University of Oregon, with the stunt support from the Regional English Office, the Embassy of the United States of America in Bangkok. The video conference lecture series signified the open door policy of the University of Oregon, underlying the new vital role of the leading university in promoting high standard of education to this part of the world, including Thailand. With the integration of technology and the human efforts, people will benefit from the education anywhere and anytime. The concept of one global classroom is an answer to such concepts when the teacher in Thailand and neighboring country, in Vietnam, the Hanoi Open University, can join this program at the same time, but different places. May I express my sincere thanks and appreciation for this contribution. With your time and efforts are mostly valued to the professional improvement of the English teacher. We very much hope that the new area of science and mathematics teaching skill is our promising future for us to work together soon. I wish all of you the best and success. Thank you. Next, may I turn the microphone to Professor Leslie.
Thank you very much for those lovely welcome and remarks. We're very happy to be here today. I think it's my job now to introduce people in the room. Is that right? Okay. I'd like to start with University of Oregon President Dave Frontmeyer. He's here this morning. Going to offer some welcoming remarks in a bit. And we move over to Dr. Eric McCready and Dr. Tom Mills, also from University of Oregon. And just behind him, Lynn Frontmeyer and their lovely daughter Amy, joining us as well. And last but not least, over in the corner, Ms. Cynthia Stenger, also from University of Oregon. Maybe we have more University of Oregon people here than Thai people this morning. We're all very happy to be here and looking forward to taking part in today's session. So I think we'll turn it over to President Frontmeyer. He has some welcoming remarks as well.
Thank you very much, Leslie. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dave Frontmeyer. It's my privilege to be president of the University of Oregon in Eugene, Oregon. And it is also my distinct privilege to be here with my wife, Lynn, and my daughter, Amy. This is our first visit to this wonderful country and to Southeast Asia. And we deeply appreciate the hospitality we have been extended. We are also grateful for the presence of members of the University of Oregon family for many, many years here. And we appreciate being part of this program of cooperation with our friends in Thailand. Let me first extend my thanks to His Majesty the King for his support and his friendship with the United States and with the University of Oregon and in this program. And I should acknowledge to you at least briefly that the royal family has made available to the University of Oregon more than 1,000 rare and important books that explain and illustrate the great heritage of this nation. We are very grateful for this gift, which will be acknowledged formally when the Crown Princess visits us later this year, and we certainly look forward to that and to continuing visits at the University of Oregon from our friends in Thailand. I also particularly would like to acknowledge and thank the Distance Learning Foundation and Chairman Wan Kao for the wonderful and very, very helpful gifts of equipment and direct support for video conferencing that makes it possible for us to communicate with you and makes it possible for us to share mutually the understanding and learning that is so important in this emerging global community. We're grateful also to the United States Embassy in Bangkok and to Richard Boyum, who is on my right, for the support that they have through the English Language Training Program. And of course we have colleagues at Chulalongkorn University in the Second Language Acquisition Program and the Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages programs. So we thank all of those persons who have made available our possibilities here. And of course I wish also to thank Leslie Opp-Beckman for her work with this program and for being a good ambassador for the University of Oregon. I understand that she is a well-known person, indeed perhaps a star to many of you who are watching these training programs, and we are very grateful for her effort through these several years now to extend herself. Let me say finally by way of introduction that we deeply appreciate our partnership with Thailand, with the Distance Learning Foundation, with the people of the United States Embassy, and with the people of Thailand and indeed of Southeast Asia. Because we know that beyond the acquisition of language, that the understanding of cultures that comes with the understanding of language is one of the great keys not only to a prosperous but also to a peaceful future. I myself have been a student in another country on several occasions. My wife, Lynn, was a teacher of English when she was growing up, and she was living in another country. And so I believe that we appreciate the understanding that comes from living with another culture and understanding that basically we are human beings with the same desires and hopes and loves throughout this world. We hope that this program from the University of Oregon furthers the cause of international understanding, and we are proud to be associated with you in this effort. Thank you, and good morning.
All right, I think at this point we're ready to move into the content of our program, and our program topic today is content, as it would turn out. I think we have some announcements to make and some sort of a little bit of business here at the beginning. We're welcoming here with us this morning Hanoi Open University, so we'd like to extend a welcome to them. We have our usual Bangkok colleagues with us. We're very happy to see them, and I get to see them in person today, which I'm absolutely thrilled about. We also have our Hua Hin colleagues with us as well. Do we need to make any announcements to Hanoi, Ajahn Matterporn, or are we?
Yeah. I'd just like to say, again, welcome. This is the first time we've had Hanoi Open University with us. We're very, very pleased that you can be live and interactive this time. And we have a technical request for you. If you could turn off your mics when you're not speaking, because the speakers are coming through the mic and we're hearing ourselves a few seconds later because of the... Okay. Are we back? Okay. So Alexandria Hayden, our English language fellow, I see in the front row. I'm not sure who else is with you. Alex, do you want to give us a quick hello and see if the system is working? Better turn your mic back on when you speak, I guess. Oh well. Okay, we're not hearing anything, so we'll come back in just a second. Okay. And then Hua Hin, are you reading us? Okay. Is Ajahn Surada, are you there? Hello, Hua Hin.
Hello.
Okay.
Richard, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, you can hear me, right? So, warm welcome to Leslie, and greetings and warm welcome to Professor Dr. Jeff Frontmeyer, the President of VOR, and his party from Hua Hin.
Great. Thank you. I know, have you got your mic on again?
Yes. Couple of notes. Can you hear me?
Let's go to Hanoi, Sarada. That's okay. You're fine. Let's check Hanoi.
Hello.
Okay.
Okay, great. Good morning. We're very happy to be here and to be a part of this video conference.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. And just please keep your mic off when nobody's talking on it, then we don't hear ourselves. Thank you. Okay, I guess we're ready to roll, and a little bit delayed this morning, but it's wonderful to have our colleagues from Oregon. It wouldn't be possible without them, and we really appreciate the continued collaboration with the Thai government, University of Oregon, Embassy, Distance Learning, Thai TESOL, Chulalongkorn, and all the teachers, all of you in the remote sites who we're hearing from via email. We really appreciate your participation. Thank you.
Okay, are we ready to get to the heart of it? All right. That's fine, yeah. Okay, are you running our PowerPoint slideshow this morning?
I can.
You can, okay. All right, so our topic today is content-based instruction in the English language teaching classroom. These are graphics, by the way, from our new website that we launched after the break. So for those of you who are following along with us, we'll be showing you that URL again at some point during this session today. Be sure that you're looking at the new website so that you can pick up the latest information on handouts and that sort of thing. We've got announcements today. We'll do our usual overview of the topic. We'll go into activity 1. We're going to look at graphic organizers as they relate to content-based instruction. We'll talk a little bit about some of the pedagogy, a bit of a definition, a rationale. I have some special examples for you today. I have a surprise. I've had the privilege this past 2 weeks of touring around the northeastern part of Thailand where we've been visiting schools, and I have some excellent examples from Thailand of content-based instruction, which I'm looking forward to sharing with you this morning. We have a second activity. We'll do just a few more brief examples, and then we'll wrap things up with our usual conclusion, and time permitting, some questions and answers. If anyone has homework with them today, we'd be delighted to hear about that. The homework last week was a little less concrete than some of our previous sessions. Teachers were invited to go into the virtual learning lab at the University of Oregon, and indeed many of you have. We have some lovely voice postings and some text postings, and we'll try to leave that discussion open a bit longer for those of you who didn't have time to join us yet or still need to ask questions about it. But does anyone in Bangkok have projects that they're wanting to share today? Do we have any teachers who have homework they're wanting to share? No, that's fine. That's just fine. How about let's check in with Hua Hin if we can go back to the camera. I think you have to click up. Can we go back to Hua Hin and see if they have any homework? We lost Huyen. Okay, we'll check back in with them on that. One important announcement that we have to make is that As it turns out, the originally scheduled video conference on July 22nd is a national holiday, and no one will be here. So we don't want to connect with you if there's not going to be anyone here. So we've moved that to July 29th. And so please mark your calendars, and we'll be changing the website as well. Meeting on July 29th instead of July 22nd. We've done our opening remarks. We've got Hanoi and Hua Hin coming in and out. Okay. Well, let's start with a bit of an overview. Richard and I are going to share this morning.
Welcome to the conference.
Okay. And content-based instruction as a pedagogy, as a framework, is not particularly new. What we're doing with it in English language teaching in Thailand is new. However, it started, it's sort of recognized as having started back in Canada in the mid-1960s. So it has a long history, it has a long body of research that goes with it, and a lot of best practices that have been developed already by teachers in many parts of the world. The basic tenet of content-based instruction is that it uses the target language as a vehicle through which the subject content is learned. So you can think of it as the American expression we call double dipping, doing two things at one time. So you can teach English and you can teach content simultaneously together. So the two are not separated, they're joined inherently throughout the curriculum. Content-based instruction combines specific content with language teaching goals. So we don't give up our other pedagogies, our other frameworks that we're using. It fits very nicely together with them, and we'll be talking more about that. On the screen, you see an abbreviation at the top, Overview CBI. When you see CBI in today's presentation, that just means content-based instruction. It's a long word, so we'll just use that acronym to save space on the screen. Okay. All right. Richard, is there anything you wanted to add about content-based instruction? You've been teaching a long time yourself.
Yeah, I think this is a very
Welcome to the conference.
very active trend around the world that I've seen in the neighboring countries and my former positions in South America and Middle East. And I think it's a trend that we see in Thailand. Many schools are now looking at using English as a medium of instruction for math and science. And that's, as Leslie said, what we used to say, double dipping, where you do two things. You can also not only learn about the colors of the spectrum and the primary colors, but you'll be learning it in English, or the principles of math as a new math skill, but also be learning it in English and learning the English vocabulary structure that goes along with that math topic or subject. So it's a way of preparing students for the real world and for using English in a productive and communicative way after school, after university, whatever. It's a very authentic and communicative approach, and that's the subject of our program this morning, is including and using English content along with English language education.
Ajahn Narapon, are you translating today? Are you going to take time?
Tiny bit, because I had no idea.
Yeah. Okay, so brief comments?
Yeah, but then not so much this time. And you might tell them today we won't do it because.
Okay. Yeah, just a brief briefing in Thai a little bit to start with for our Thai teachers here. วันนี้ก็ Content-based instruction นะคะหัวข้อแล้วทราบว่าทุกท่านก็คงคุ้นเคยอยู่บ้างแล้วก็คือการสอนโดยใช้ภาษาอังกฤษเนี่ยนะคะเป็นเขาบอกว่าเป็น vehicle คือเป็นเครื่องมือที่จะเรียนตัว content นะคะ content กับภาษานี้ไปด้วยกันนะคะอันนี้ซึ่งก็ทราบว่ามีหลายแห่งก็ได้ทดลองใช้ลักษณะนี้แล้วค่ะ
Okay, great. If we can come back to the PowerPoint presentation just for a few minutes. Today we'll start with our first activity. Are you ready for the first activity? Bangkok, are you ready? Yes, good. You've been very patient. Thank you for sitting so patiently. How about Hua Hian? Are you ready for the first activity?
Yes, we're ready.
Thank you, Ajar and Sarada. How about Hanoi? Okay. We'll assume that you're ready to follow along. One way of combining content in the classroom, when we'll be looking at several ways this morning, is to use something called graphic organizers. And I know this isn't new to all Thai teachers. When I was out in the schools this past week, I saw evidence of teachers using them in journals with students, up on the board, on bulletin boards. We saw them in a number of ways. We've got, as part of today's presentation, a website that's linked to the primary website that supports these video conferences. And this particular website is called Everything ESL, and it has a large section with a lot of graphic organizers for content instruction. We've got one with us this morning that we're going to walk you through as a model and then ask you to get into your usual groups and do some work with it hands-on during today's session as well. And we'll do the usual activity, give you time to work, and then some debriefing and take some examples from folks at the different sites. How does that sound? Give me a thumbs up. Does that sound good?
From folks at the different sites.
How does that sound? All right. And I told you I would give you the URL for the supporting website. This is it up on the screen. And I told you I haven't jotted it down in previous sessions. TaiUovo.uoregon.edu. All right, if we can switch to the document camera, I think what we'd like to do is walk you through the handout. I see in the Bangkok site people have their handout. It looks like this one. It's little boxes, and at the top it says compare and contrast. Does anyone need a copy? Can you please raise your hand if you need a copy? Okay, Kunina will come around and get you copies if you need one. We've got extra copies today too, so if you on the one that you have, you can pick up a clean one at the end to take back for photocopies. I think what we're doing is switching over to the document camera so we can walk you through it. While we're doing that, Richard, why don't you talk to us a little bit about the demonstration topics we're going to use today.
Okay, as a bit of content for the first activity, we've selected the topic of professions. In fact, while we were touring the Northeast last week, we saw several classes that dealt with the different professions. It's a very common theme for English language, but it's also something that teachers can expand upon as a useful activity. So the topic that we'll put up on the lead category, compare and contrast professions. And let's see if we have who's on camera and if we're getting the document. Looks like we're waiting for Hua Hin again.
While we're waiting for Hua Hin, let's check in with the Bangkok teachers on this side. How many of you, please raise your hands, are using topics like professions as content already in your classrooms? Professions, occupations, jobs. How many people are using?
Hands up.
Hands up. Are you using this in your curriculum somewhat already? In your textbooks? Please raise your hand if you're using this as a topic.
Yeah, some okay.
Some okay. All right. So again, we're not asking you to copy this exactly. We're going to walk you through how to use a chart like this, and then we'll let you pick your own topics as usual. Did you bring some of your books or your curriculum with you today? You have it in your heads, I know that. Yeah. Great stores, wealth of stores of knowledge in your heads.
We thought that in dealing with professions, we're going to also incorporate a little bit of the language structure of comparing and contrasting. And something like professions is a good bit of content to practice and reinforce certain language skills. So we selected as two professions a doctor and a teacher. And so on our chart, we'll fill in under professions the next two boxes. One side will be doctor and one side will be teacher.
All right, here we go. We're up on screen, Richard. So I'm writing doctor and teacher. And what Richard and I are modeling for you this morning is something that you can do with your own students. What the Thai teachers in the Northeast demonstrated for us and what we've used in our own teaching practices is just what we're doing today, sort of walk your students through it for the first time, and then they're perfectly capable of doing these with topics that either you suggest or that they come up with on their own in groups. And so you'll be the students in the class today, and then when you go back to your own classrooms, of course, you're the teachers. So we'll get to try both sides. All right, so we've got doctor and teacher up there, and in the middle you'll see a category called features. So what are we going to do with that, Richard?
Well, we tried to think about of a profession, what are some features that distinguish one profession from another profession? We came up with things like clothing. People dress differently for different jobs. So we put clothing in the first square, the first rectangle. The second one, we thought another way is the way you prepare for work. What is the education to prepare you for a profession? That's another way we can distinguish between professions. And we also thought about who does the profession serve? Who is your audience? Who are your clients? Who are your public? Who do you work with? So who is another category that we came up with to discriminate and compare and contrast professions.
Okay, so we can just kind of jump in, and this is where you would do your brainstorming with your students. So if we're thinking about clothing, for example, and we're thinking about doctors, what do, and I'm going to ask the Bangkok audience to help us a little bit here. What do Thai doctors? You get sick, you go to the clinic or the hospital. How do you know it's the doctor? What is the doctor wearing? And we're going to say she. We're going to say it's a woman. White jacket. Okay, so some kind of white coat or a white, can I say coat? Gown? Would it be a gown? Maybe the patient wears the gown. Maybe the doctors wear gowns too. White coat. Okay. White coat. What else? Because maybe the lab technicians wear white coats too. What else tells you it's the doctor?
Yeah.
Stethoscope. Yeah. Sometimes they wear some of their equipment. So, for example, a typical doctor might have the listening device, the stethoscope, around their necks. What else? Anything else? Sometimes they wear special glasses. Very good. Okay, so they might have on protective glasses. How about on their hands? Sometimes they have protective gloves. Gloves sometimes. It depends. Okay, good. Now, are these things that teachers wear? Do you wear a white coat when you teach? No. Maybe the students would be afraid if you wore a white coat and looked like a doctor. So what do teachers wear? We visited schools and we saw a number of things that teachers wear. Uniforms. And in Thailand, what we learned is that teachers have different uniforms sometimes. So, for example, we visited one school on Red Day, and everyone wore red, including the teachers. And on exercise day, the students changed their clothes. The teachers didn't. Yeah. And
we saw teachers in scout uniforms.
Yes, we went on Scout Day. Yes.
Is not something a doctor would wear.
Exactly.
So there's a compare and contrast. So we could say uniform like scout or sport.
Okay, let's do that. Or color. Yeah, if my doctor came in wearing a scout uniform, I would be very nervous.
Yeah.
Okay. And Thai Day, Naraporn is telling us. What is Thai Day? Tell us about Thai Day.
Well, one day of the week we wear, Thai materials, right? Yeah, Thai silk.
Oh.
Yeah.
We didn't get to see that. I'm sorry we missed that. Yeah. We'll look forward to that on our next visit. Anything else you'd like to add for teachers? You were the teachers. A big bag? Oh, no, I don't believe that.
Carry a big bag.
Oh, you carry a big bag. So good, you have equipment. Okay. So your equipment is not a stethoscope, it would be a big bag. Bag of tricks, a bag of knowledge. All right.
All your books.
All the books and
The
students'
notebooks,
work.
students' books, you carry in a big bag.
Yeah. Anything else, teachers, that you'd like us to know you wear? Okay. Glasses. Yes, some of us wear glasses as well. Okay. I'll put that in parentheses. Like this. Okay. How about education?
Yeah, we went down to education and how do doctors and teachers prepare themselves. We discovered that there's a different academic path, so maybe we can identify that. And those of you at the remote sites, you can be thinking and going along, and again, we'll repeat this activity in a moment with another subject. But for example, let's start with the part of teachers this time. How do you become a teacher? What do you need to do?
What did you do to become a teacher? Did we take a vote? Was it a democracy? We voted for
No vote. You need?
What do you need?
A degree.
A degree.
Okay. You need a university degree.
Okay, so you went to teacher colleges or universities or some, and not only one time, but as we, okay, teacher license. They need a license. Okay. And not only that, these folks are great examples of how they're engaged in lifelong learning and ongoing professional development. So it's not just a one-time thing. You don't go to university and then you know it all. You, as you're showing us here today, you keep learning and you keep training yourself.
And do you take education courses to become a teacher? Okay. Specialize in education.
Okay, I'm going to add professional development here. Okay, good. How about Thai doctors? What do Thai doctors do? Is it a vote? Do we vote for our doctors? No, we hope not. They have to have a degree as well. Okay.
Okay, good. So there's a contrast. Doctor has a degree, a 6-year degree. Teachers, 4-year degree.
Right, and maybe doctors have more than one set of training that they go through.
So we're beginning to set things up. Later, we can work with our students. Doctors have more education than teachers. Doctors study longer than teachers do. And you'll begin to see some language usage that we can develop from these kinds of charts. Does a doctor have a degree in sports? Does a doctor have a degree in engineering? Does a doctor?
No, I'm hearing science.
Science and
medicine.
Medicine, okay.
Yeah.
So specialized degree, medicine.
So they both have degrees, but their specializations are different. So that's the compare and contrast part.
On the one hand, on the other hand, doctors have a degree in medicine. On the other hand, teachers have a degree in education. We can begin to find all sorts of language activities.
Comparatives and superlatives. You're doing a nice job of using lots of them. Right. Okay, how about who? They might see some of the same people, but not necessarily. Yeah. What do we call? They're both essentially service professions. So who does a doctor serve? What do we call the people that a doctor serves? Patients, yes. And who do teachers serve? Students. Okay. And the two are not mutually exclusive. I see a lot of very caring teachers who also provide counseling and advising and a number of services beyond education. Likewise, when you visit a doctor, you would hope that he would educate you as to why he is offering a particular treatment or made a decision about your health. So they do overlap. We can find areas where they overlap, but we tend to think of them as providing different kinds of services. Okay. What are some other audiences that teachers and doctors interact with? Can you think? Who do your students, when they go home at night, who do they go home to? Their parents. Do you ever talk to their parents? And teachers are very active in their communities here, as far as I can see. So you work primarily with students, but you also work with parents. We heard teachers talking about conferencing and school events and using schools for training and information. We've also had some very nice projects demonstrated by the teachers in this project doing community work. One of the projects was, do you remember working with international tourists who came, and the students were going out and offering translation services and community services as well. So interacting with the community.
On the medical side, when we talk about patients, what age group are we talking about?
Okay. All right, so teachers tend to be in schools, and doctors tend to be in clinics or hospitals, or so the place is different. Thank you. All right.
And I think the doctor's patients probably tend to be anyone from babies to children, young people, adults, old people. What about teachers? Do teachers work with babies or old people?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, but probably not as much. So we might have a contrast.
Okay. Good. Are you getting the idea? Are you getting the feel for this? How many of you are already using graphic organizers in your classroom activities? Is anyone using organizers like this already? Okay, well, I urge you to visit the website where these are stored and linked. There are a lot of them, and they can be a very rich source for initiating conversation, integrated skills, combining grammar. You'll notice by default, one of our grammar focus areas here was the comparative and superlative, but you could also focus on, for example, WH questions, time frameworks like the simple present or the simple past.
One of the activities that came to mind as we were preparing for this was to look at the information that was generated in the chart and then ask students to come up with sets of questions that could be asked to each other as group or pair work for the three different categories. For example, we had clothing, education, and who. And we might then put up on the board just the question words, what, when, where, how, who, why, and ask what kinds of questions could we generate from this information. Well, now we have a lot of information on the graphic organizer. In the area of clothing, we might ask questions like, what does a doctor wear? Who wears a white coat? The doctor does, not the teacher. So students can begin, we can work with them, work through some of the initial questions, then ask our students in teams to come up with 3, 4, 5 WH questions for each topic.
So the focus area in your textbooks oftentimes will be, for example, a grammar focus. And if you work with students for grammar, straight grammar for 45 minutes, what happens to them? They sort of start, maybe not your students, but if it's only grammar, maybe they start, it's hard to hold their attention. So if you can combine the grammar with interesting content areas and also get them interacting with the content. At this point, if I were doing an exercise like this, I probably would not be correcting pronunciation or spelling so much. This isn't sort of like a fluency or a brainstorming kind of fashion. I would definitely correct it later on when they were doing final drafts of writing or they were actively engaged in the pronunciation or the conversation practice part. But for this part, you don't even have to particularly focus on accuracy, just trying to get students to be forthcoming and get engaged with the content area.
One of the advantages of working with using more content that's relevant or that students have experience that's less tied to the book itself is that everybody has something to say. And what we want to do is open students up so that what they have inside comes out in English in the classroom. And the excitement of having something to say is very important. And we'll worry about cleaning up the grammar and accuracy later, but all the students have had many different teachers. All the students have seen or know doctors, have experiences. So that wealth of information that's inside, we want to bring out and use for English language practice. And if we're too cautious, we'll make them shy. But on the contrary, we encourage through content real communication.
We've talked about those affective factors before in previous sessions, so the importance of motivation, being engaged, spending time on task. We know that our learning outcomes are higher if we can get students moving in that direction. let's get them moving in the
Yeah,
same direction
exactly.
as well. And we're not going to prescribe topics to you either. We'd like you to think about your curriculum and your students and get out your blank piece of paper and get into your groups, maybe groups of 4 or 5, whoever you would like to normally work with. And we'll give you 5 minutes, something like that, 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
To come up with one, and then we'd like to get some examples from Bangkok and Hua Hin and maybe Hanoi as well.
Yeah, and those of you at the remote sites, if you don't have a paper like this, you can start with a blank paper, or if you're in a classroom, you just go to the blackboard, and you can just very quickly make the categories that you've seen on the overhead camera. So if you're in another remote location, or they're in Hanoi, or in a different part of Thailand, don't worry about if you don't have the paper. Just find something and do your own version. Professions at the top, and then one profession. We said doctor and teacher. You say 2 different professions or 2 different topics.
Yeah, they might even do something other than profession.
Maybe you'll choose animals.
Sports.
So up here you might say
yeah.
animal or sport.
Or food or
Food.
whatever.
And then you choose 2 examples. What are the features? And then the characteristics. And let's see what kinds of ideas everybody can come up with in Vietnam and Thailand.
Okay, ready, set, go.
ได้เลยค่ะ เชิญเลยค่ะ
Is it okay if I move around the room? I'm sort of curious about what people are doing and just sort of check in with them.
หลายหัวข้อนะคะจะใช้เป็นสัตว์หรือกีฬาหรือว่าเพลงหรืออะไรก็ได้นะคะ
You want to stay on the air, Richard? No.
You're the film star.
Okay, remote sites. Let's take about 1 more minute,
Thank you.
and then we'll come back and share our information. So hope you've chosen a category and 2 examples, and you've filled in some features and the characteristics.
Okay, let's wrap things up. I'm so happy to be in Bangkok this time. I actually got to walk around the room and talk to people and see what they're doing, and impressive results as always. How's Hua Hin? Ajahn Sorada, how are you doing?
Well, it seems that about 80% of the room focus on food. So we have lots of conversa here. So we have a group doing something on food, and the second group is doing something on animals.
Oh my goodness. Well, we'd love to hear some of your examples. I'm afraid you'll make us hungry with all that food talk. Do you have one you'd like to share with us? Does someone have one?
So we start with food first because you're hungry.
Okay.
Don't know whose it is. Manisa. Oh, brother.
Okay, so speak in your nice, loud teacher voice into the microphone, and let's hear what you've done.
Good morning, Leslie. We consider about food, and we distinguish about Western food and Thai food. And the feeders are test. For example, test Western food creamy, fattening and rich, and Thai food spicy and tasty. Ingredients: Western food, butter, cheese, salt, pepper, olive oil. And Thai food, chili, sugar, herb, fish sauce.
Excuse me,
Oil.
John. Your voice is very, very low. Maybe speak closer to the microphone. Make sure your mic is turned on. And then Hanoi, we're going to come to you in just a moment, so get ready. But let's all, don't turn your mic on yet. And we'll have Hua Hin and then Hanoi. But let's try again Hua Hin with a nice and close to the microphone.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. So we talk about food,
Okay.
the Western food and Thai food. The features are taste, ingredients, and preparations. The first one is taste. Western food is creamy, fattening, rich. Thai food is spicy and tasty. Ingredients. Western food is butter, cheese, salt, pepper, olive oil. And Thai food is chili, sugar, herb, fish sauce, vegetable oil, and coconut milk. And the last one is preparations. Western food is fast, convenient, and Thai food is complicated. It takes a long time. And the last one is decoration. Thank you.
Wow, that was great. Yes. So we covered calories and tastes and ingredients and time. You just about covered it all there. Very nicely done. Okay. All right. What kinds of activities do you think you would combine with that? What kinds of grammar or other activities might you do? Yeah, that wasn't part of the task. Maybe WH questions or?
I think with food, with all the preparation you identified, another structure would be sequencing. First, you do this. Then, second, third, finally. These would be another, that might be another activity you could do, the sequence of events. Let's,
So we can teach the students about how to use the WH question or adjective and how to write a recipe for food.
Good.
excellent.
Good. So writing recipes, expanding with adjectives, question structure. Perfect. Okay. Good. Can you kind of hold it up to us? Hold it in front of you. Turn it around the other way. Hold your paper up so we can see it like this. Like this. There we go.
Just show to the camera.
Yeah, show it to the camera. There you go. Can we see? Not from that one.
Leslie, I will show it under the document station. Just a moment, please.
Okay, thank you. Right. Okay, so here it comes to the document station. While they're getting ready to show us that, Hanoi, will you get ready to talk to us as well? Oh, there we go. Food.
We are talking about the language skills.
So nice job. So you just took a blank piece of paper and just did it with circles and squares. That's excellent. Thank you.
Okay, we are.
Okay, Hanoi, go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, we're still looking at
Contrast
Hua
speaking.
Hin.
Just one more minute, Hanoi, please.
Yeah,
Complicated
we have.
decoration. Okay.
Thank you, Hua Hin.
Thank you, Hua Hin. Yes.
Welcome.
Okay, Hanoi.
Just speaking and writing. We talk is topic of speaking and topic of writing. Of speaking, social problems and news. And of writing, it is academic. We are for to And for the third feature, the tools, all the phones, pronunciation. For writing, the social thinking, grammar, and
Okay, can you show us your sheet? Will you turn your paper to the camera so we can see it? Hold up your paper so we can see it.
Yeah, the mic was real bad.
Okay. I think, I'm sorry, our connection was a little bit rough, but it looks like you were talking about skill areas. And a couple of your skill areas perhaps were speaking, there we go, and writing.
Features?
And your features were skills, large skills.
Okay.
Oh, and I like your content areas. You could talk about everyday life, about problems. So the nice thing about this example is it's at more of what we would call a kind of macro level. So at the teaching or the academic or the pedagogical level. So my approach to how I structure my classes. All right, thank you. Topics, okay. Okay, good, we get the idea. Thank you very much, Hanoi. News, okay, good. All right, thank you. Those are excellent. Okay, so getting back to our presentation on from Bangkok and the PowerPoint presentation, let's see if we can clarify just a little further what is content. So what we've seen from some of the excellent examples at the 3 different sites with us today, and I'm sure at the remote sites who are following along, you've come up with a lot of good examples as well. Content-based instruction, these graphic organizers are things you can use with a wide variety of academic and subject areas across the curriculum. A lot of you tied into students' personal interests, and I didn't mean to, but I think I skipped Bangkok. We need to come back to them as well because we have some examples here. Some of you mentioned news, current events. You could use local activities, things that are happening in your community or your region. Other projects that you're working on in the classroom, text, multimedia kinds of materials. Let's take one last example from Bangkok. Do we have someone from Bangkok who wants to share with us your content as well? Come back to our Bangkok audience. Who's brave?
And while we're waiting, they'll come to the mic and the overhead cam. Those of you out in the remote sites, other cities throughout Thailand, I hope your groups have done the same thing. And be sure at the end of the program to take a moment and talk with each other. You should each have a group facilitator, and maybe when we finish, before you go away, you can each hold up your graphic organizers and share with each other in your group. And then be sure to take this home and try it in your class. Next week, when you're teaching, go to the blackboard, put up some structures, and use it in whatever your lesson might be. We think you'll find some good place for it. Okay?
Okay, we have an example here with us in Bangkok. We're going to switch to the document projector, but Ajarn, you can start talking about what you've got on your paper.
In our group, we treated animals. For comparison, an elephant and a rat.
Welcome to the conference.
Professor is size. For elephant is big size. He have trunks and ivory and have 4 legs. For the rat, the small size, have nose, small nose, and also 4 legs. It has 4 legs. For food, an elephant eats sugar cane, fruit, and glass. And rat eat everything, meat, cheese, and food. For the living, places for living, an elephant lives in forest, logging camp, zoo, and in the in palace, also for white elephant. For that, they live in the houses, in farm, and all dirty place, and everywhere. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Okay, let's slide it back down up to the top there too. There we go. Okay. Very nice. You covered a lot of areas. So you have things that are both different and the same about them. Okay. Good.
Once again, let's think of some activities that you could do with your students based on the information and their experience. I think you have a lot of experience with elephants in Thailand and in Vietnam. And so there could be writing stories. They could be making a conversation. You could work on WH questions. You could work with comparatives again, bigger, smaller, faster, slower, eat more, eat less. Lots of activities. From this one worksheet, you could do many, many things. All right.
Okay. We have a request to adjust the screen here. I'm going to see if I can do that very quickly so that they get a better projection on the television. It is already, yeah. I can't, yeah.
Okay, while Leslie's doing that, I'd like you to, if anybody has your textbook with you, those of you in the remote sites or anybody here, take a look through, open to some unit or some chapter and begin to be thinking about what are some topics that you could amplify and expand the content with this kind of activity. And be sure, as we said, to try it out in your class during this next week.
Good. I think we're ready to come back to our next PowerPoint slide, which is looking a bit at rationale. So recapping why we would use content-based instruction. Again, trying to foster a more context-dependent and natural or authentic kind of language experience in our classrooms. To link language with meaning. I noticed in the Bangkok classroom, some of the teachers chose topics that all of the teachers chose topics their students would like. So I saw a couple of animals, I saw sports, I saw pop singers, food, from some of the other sites. So things that their students were interested in. And we had a good question from the back of the room from Jarn in the back saying, what should I do first? Should I do the graphic organizer or should I teach them the grammar first? And that was a really good question, and we talked about it a little bit among ourselves and sort of decided maybe to get our students excited and engaged with the language that we might start with the compare and the contrast and the graphic organizer and get students feeling confident and excited and engaged, and then give them the correction and the grammar tools that they needed after that in order to be even more effective with it. As we've discussed in previous sections, we are making a conscious effort to link language with meaning. In the past, with our grammar translation methodology, we would do a lot of what used to be called sort of drill and kill kinds of exercises, rote memorization, a lot of disconnected facts. So what is a volcano? What is popcorn? What is your pet?
Welcome
with sort
to
of
the
no
conference.
obvious connection between them. Whereas with a content-based instruction unit or focus, all the grammar, all of the content, the pronunciation, those integrated skills that we've been working so hard to foster come together under the umbrella of a common content area. This also works well with the critical thinking and the cooperative learning approaches that we've been discussing. It also scales well depending on the size of the class. So in our classroom here this morning in our studio, we have 20 to 25 people. Richard and I saw it used effectively with groups in classes as large as 40 and 45 students in some of the schools that we visited. So we have examples from teachers doing things like surveys, interviews. We saw examples of teachers in this region using songs and video. That was very exciting. Total physical response storytelling. You may recall from our first video conferencing session, we looked at the coyote and the bird story. Some of you are using that out in your classrooms as well. Saw some really excellent examples of student research projects, some of them small in nature that took place over a relatively short period of time, some of them that were much longer. And we'll look at some examples of those. We've seen school newspapers, posters, bulletin boards, anthologies of student stories and poems, things that essentially connected students to their lives. And what we'd like to share with you now are some photographs from schools that we visited recently who are incorporating content-based instruction. Whether they realize it or not, or call it that, they're already being very effective with it. In Karat, we had the honor to visit, and I'm going to ask your forgiveness in advance. My Thai pronunciation is nowhere near as good as your English pronunciation. Not important. In fact, can you help me and give a good pronunciation with the right tones?
The school?
Yes, please.
Suratham Pitak, โรงเรียน Suratham Pitak โคราช
Thank you. And the thing we loved about this school is that it was very welcoming to everybody who came onto the school grounds, very inclusive, including this lovely little doggie who sat all through the morning assembly and shared with us as well. I just love that picture, the little doggie there too. This is a nice example in a classroom of a very language-rich environment. The teachers are doing content-based instruction and creating language-rich environments without a lot of money. We're not talking about having to have a lot of money or resources. If you have high technology like video, great. If you don't, you have paper, you have students, you have a lot of creativity, they have a lot of ideas. So you'll see in the background the topic of the universe, of zodiacs and astrology and fortune telling and all of those good things. And in this particular picture, if you look in the background, you'll see in the back some student-generated work in the form of folders. You'll also see on a white stand back in the corner some books. Now, and these are not books that the teachers bought. These are materials about a wide variety of content areas that were just available for free in the community. So they were things like tourism brochures, magazines, flyers, announcements, anything that was in English that was loosely related to topics in the classroom. The teachers simply bring it into the classroom. The students can read it, they can access it, they can use it freely at any time. So we learned a lot from this class as well.
We're wondering if it's you or another site that has the...
This is another school that we visited, and I'll ask Ajahn Naraporn to help me. This is in Chayapum.
โรงเรียนสตรีชัยภูมิ
Okay, thank you. And this was a school where what we're looking at here are the windows. These are the windows. These are the shutters on the windows. And the teachers are using effective use of every bit of space in their classroom to make English around or surrounding their students with color and beauty and English and content. So we looked at professions today as part of our first activity. Here are some professions that were represented in the classroom. And again, these are very simple products. They obviously required a lot of time and thought and were well connected to the instruction in the classroom. And then they're nice models for the students who come next year or the younger students who come along and observe the older students as well. So we thank you for those examples. We hope you're watching today so you know you get recognition for them. They also had a very nice example of a student-generated bulletin board. This was a large wall covering in the back of one of their rooms, looking at a recent unfortunate news event, the tsunami that occurred in Thailand, but also using that as an opportunity to educate students about preventing it or dealing with it and helping people afterwards. So this was a lovely bulletin board. All of the work that you're seeing, the photographs, the pictures, the writing, was generated by the students. You can see the group identity down at the bottom.
And I think that's an excellent, the tsunami is an excellent example of learning two things, English and content, because this was a chance to educate students about how tsunami occurs, what to do, how safety procedures, seeking the high ground, listening for the sirens. So they're learning useful safety information, but they're learning it in English, and they're learning English vocabulary necessary at the same time. So it's a good example of 2 for 1, content and language.
Thank you, Richard. This is a little more difficult to see, but I really wanted you to see this photograph. These are examples of student-generated projects, so year-long projects that the older students put together. And we're going to be talking in one of the future sessions about project-based learning. And this is a teacher who is already very actively engaged in project-based learning. These are content-related research projects. They involve oral presentations, research, writing, critical thinking, publication skills. The students generate these amazing projects year after year. They now have several years of these projects to show. And the teacher reports that students actually come back and take these projects out when they're competing for scholarships or exchange opportunities, that these projects have not only served as academic or learning tools, but important out in the community and in students' lives beyond the classroom as well. Very, very powerful means of learning and connecting both content and language with their lives. And Ajahn Naraporn, can you help me with the pronunciation on this one?
It is โรงเรียนหนองแสงทวินราช
Thank you. And this is an example of, again, this was from a door. So we had a very nice welcome sign with student drawings. And we also had pictures of the students with their names. And just very simple English. But from the minute the students walk through that door, they know they're entering an English environment. And they know they're part of it, that they're welcome and that they're included. This particular teacher was really active in getting students up and moving around and using total physical response and storytelling. Again, it didn't require a lot of resources or anything fancy. She had a bowl of fruit. So the students were practicing eat, 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 and step to the left and step to the right. And as you can see, they were having a lot of fun. I believe they remember that vocabulary and that English. I think they'll remember it long after anything they've done in their grammar books. She also had them, she sort of creates this sense of mystery, and she said, okay, everybody tomorrow bring a glass to school. Oh, Ajahn, why do we need a glass? Oh, I can't tell you until tomorrow. So they all brought their glasses of water, so they were doing the same activity with glasses of water, too. It was really, really enjoyable to see. And the last school I'd like to share with you, the names are getting longer and longer as we go. Ajahn Naraporn is looking at me. I'm glad to see that the pronunciation is interesting for her, too. Give it your best shot.
Yeah, okay, it's confusing for me as well. โรงเรียนมหาชนะชัยวิทยาคม
Very good. Your Thai pronunciation is excellent. This is a content unit where the students were studying animals, much as you suggested here today. And I know they studied grammar and pronunciation, but one of the obvious outcomes of the work that they did was to generate posters that they then put up around the classroom. And they were doing birds. And so we have the barn owl. I love this barn owl. The barn owl is found on the island of Jamaica. It always swallows mice, birds, lizards, and frogs whole. So you can just imagine the student who was thinking about this barn owl and about how the barn owl eats. And we chew our food, but owls just swallow everything whole. We also had a student who was interested in sort of animals with interesting mutations or aspects to them. And so here we have a picture of a chicken with 3 feet. Now, I myself have never seen a chicken with 3 feet, but I'm glad to have this opportunity to learn that they exist and that this is what one would look like. Okay. Ajahn Dome at this school was also using video in his classroom. So again, we can go from very sort of low-tech kinds of solutions or projects or orientations to higher tech. This is not to say that you must use video in your classroom, just that multimedia can be another rich source of content. This particular video was science-related, and it was about the science industry and technology in Malaysia. And he was connecting it to some grammar constructions and other work that they were doing in class that week. And I'd like to acknowledge the far reach that this program is happening and join President Frohnmeyer and others in thanking the project. When we visited this particular school, they had a banner for us celebrating AFS exchanges and this particular video conference, and these are the lovely teachers in this department that we worked with. Okay, so just very quickly, we're getting close to the end of our time. Our last activity is shorter than the first one. Activity number 2, what we'd like you to do is think about some of these examples that you just saw from Thai classrooms and some of the things we've talked about today. For activity number 2, we just gave you a list of resources, and you'll notice they are not in any numbered order. There is no 1, 2, 3, 4 yet. What we'd like you to do is get back into your groups, talk about some of the things you've seen, the print materials, magazines, books, flyers, brochures, audio, video materials, images, whether they're photos, student drawings, cartoons, websites, textbooks, realia. So we saw examples of fruit and glasses of water. We also saw toys. There are many things that you could bring in. So think about these in terms of your own classroom. If you're thinking about consciously trying to incorporate more content into your classrooms and bringing in some of these kinds of materials, what is the most important to you in your school? Where would you start? What's number 1, number 2, number 3? So please look at this list and reorder them into the number of that you feel is the most important, and talk a little bit in your group about why and how. So we're going to rank order, talk about why and how these resources might come in a content-based instruction kind of framework. Do you want to recap briefly, Naraporn, or?
ค่ะกิจกรรมที่2นะคะก็ให้อาจารย์เลสลี่ให้ลิสต์มาแล้วนะคะว่าซอสที่เราจะดึงเอาข้อมูลมาให้นักเรียนทำกิจกรรมที่เกี่ยวกับ Content-based Instruction Learning เนี่ยนะคะได้จากอะไรบ้างทีนี้ให้เราแต่ละท่านแต่ละกลุ่มนะคะอาจารย์ช่วยแรงค์นะคะลำดับว่าความสำคัญว่าอาจารย์คิดว่าข้อมูลที่เราใช้กันอยู่ปัจจุบันหรือว่าที่คิดว่าน่าจะใช้ได้นะคะสำหรับโปรเจกต์ของอาจารย์เนี่ยมาจากซอสไหนบ้างตามลำดับความสำคัญ1 2 3นะคะแล้วก็จะใช้อย่างไรนั่นลองคิดเป็นตัวอย่างนิดนึงด้วยค่ะ
Okay, so let's take about 3 to 5 minutes and talk in the groups.
Don't forget, in Thailand, those of you in Ubon Ratchathani, in Phetchabun, and Pitsanaluk, and Kanchanaburi, form your groups and talk about your resources among yourselves as well, all over. Hanoi, go ahead. We're listening, but we don't hear you.
Hello. Can you hear me again?
Okay. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me again?
Yes.
To rank up, I have a number of items which can be used, and use the textbook as number 1. Number 2 is images. Number 3, audio. Number 4, next is realia. The reason for the text structured according to the syllabus of the teaching. That is why in the non-language situation, very helpful, and teachers and students benefit a lot from textbooks. Besides, we can use images. Sometimes they illustrate, and we can get pictures. We can get pictures, images from nearly everywhere, from internet, from magazines, from newspapers, and from photos. So pictures are very together with the textbooks.
That's all.
Okay, thank you. Those were very helpful comments. I agree. Pictures can be a tremendous source for prompting, for offering information, for supporting content work that you're doing. Thank you, Hanoi. Okay, how about Hua Hin? How did you rank order the resources, and what did you choose and why?
From Hua Hin, the first one is the real thing. When the students see the real thing, they can remember. The second is audio material, cassette, video, or speech, or sometimes music. The third is printed material, magazine, newspaper. When they see the real thing, they would like to know the vocabularies. They look for from the magazine or the newspaper, sometimes or dictionary. Four is the internet. They would like to look for the many things in the internet. Five is textbook. Thank you.
Good. What we've seen so far, and a quick note to Hanoi, can you please turn your microphone off so we don't have echo on this side? Thank you. This was a very nice example of the two different sites, and I'm sure even within the groups at those sites, of coming up with a different rank ordering. So there is no one right answer to something like this. What all of you are doing with this information, as with other information from the other sessions, is you take what we have to offer you today and what you're learning from each other, and then you apply it in a way that's meaningful and useful to your own local site. So this goes for Hua Hin, for Bangkok, for Hanoi, and for all the sites that are watching along with us as well. We're not at all suggesting there is one right order to this. It's whatever seems to work best for you, and you are in the best positions to know that. You know your classes and your students and what you're trying to accomplish. Okay, last but not least, we have Bangkok, and they were at a bit of a disadvantage because we had some shuffling during that time, so they didn't have as much time to talk and discuss. But is there a group or someone who's prepared to? Great, great.
I think I would say the first one, which is very important, might be print material. Yeah, and textbooks. In case some teachers do not ask their students to buy the books because it's very expensive for the English books, and so she can afford for them and then copy it. Yeah, and the second one I say image, photos, drawing, because the students can bring it by themselves, bring the one that they like the most back to show to their friends, and maybe make a story, build a story. Yeah, and the last one I say realia, because something sometimes we cannot buy at first something expensive. We can bring from our home. Yeah, I think that. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. You raised a number of important points there. So maximizing the use of resources that we already have, our print and our textbooks. So that was something that Hanoi mentioned as well. Looking for images, looking for text. And we don't have to, we're not suggesting that you go buy realia or that you go buy things. It's what do I already have in my environment that will function well with this kind of approach. Okay. We have a couple of other PowerPoint slides, but I think what we're going to do is give them to you verbally, because we've been told by the technical people here that every time we switch back to PowerPoint, it causes the sites to drop off. And they're both short, and there are only two left anyway. Richard, would you like to sum up sort of what we've talked about from sort of a low and high-tech standpoint?
Well, I think it's real important to focus on the concept of content and of context. Language learning happens in a context, and to create the context, it's very useful to engage the senses, the visual, auditory. As we saw from the slides, a teacher had an apple. You might have food or drinking water. And so you don't need to have expensive means for your content. And we talk about high-tech and low-tech. And I think we should really start with the low-tech. As Ajahn said, things you bring from home, common objects. The textbook that your students have now, you can find many resources in the textbook to amplify pictures, photographs, cartoons that can become and serve as content base for your activities. If you do have access to tape recorder, you have audio cassettes would be useful. With computers, you might have DVD, CD-ROM activities. If you have a photo file in your school, you might find just holding up pictures, photographs would be another resource, which you might find in magazines.
Yeah.
And songs. We saw a wonderful demonstration where the students were using a popular song by a Thai singer in English. So you have opportunity with internet resources to have exchange over the internet, email exchange, pen pals, or we say key pals, sending email messages back and forth. And last time we saw the more high-tech virtual language lab. And if you have these resources, make use of them. If you don't have them, there are plenty of low-tech resources to create a context and content where language learning can happen.
Very good. Nicely put. So a couple of last concluding observations. As we've said throughout today's session, this fits well with the other approaches and strategies that you're using. You can implement it alongside your existing curriculum. As Richard said, it need not be expensive or even necessarily time-consuming. It can be as small or as large as you like. And we hope that it goes on to support the real-life learning that we know you're trying to foster for your students so that they can use English to get jobs, to get better education, to have the things in life that they deserve. So we thank you very much for following along with us here today. Do we do homework? Richard is saying, what shall we give you for homework?
I want to give you some homework. You have your chart, your graphic organizer with a theme, 2 topics, features, and characteristics. Do an activity like this in your class. Maybe something from your textbook, whatever the topic. If you have food or animals or professions or sports, something in your textbook, put one of these up on the blackboard, or have students take a blank sheet and draw themselves like some of you did, and do a little compare-contrast and use some WH questions or other activities, and then be prepared next time to tell us or email us about how you made use of a graphic organizer working with content.
Okay, and while we've got him here with us, we'd like to let you know that this is Richard Boyan's last personal appearance in person at the video conference. It's our loss, but India's gain that he's moving on to India for his next assignment, and we'll be going there shortly. So we're hoping maybe we can convince him to stay in touch from India, and maybe we'll be able to tap into his resources and expertise from there as well.
Yeah, thank you, Leslie. Yeah, in that regard, I'd just like to say it's been a great pleasure working with Leslie, University of Oregon, but also with Ajahn Naraporn and the colleagues in Thailand, all of you in remote locations, Vietnam, certainly the Distance Learning Foundation. This is a wonderful experiment. I think it's proven successful, and I do hope we can continue. We have a meeting to plan for more English language teacher broadcasts for next year. I will be leaving after 4 years, wonderful years in Thailand, and my successor, George Wilcox, the new English language officer, will be here in September, and I'm sure he looks forward to working together with you as well. The American Embassy certainly hopes to continue our work together in one way or another. So once again, Nice to see all of you again, and all the very best. Good luck as you continue the series.
And we say see you later, not goodbye.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us today.